Did you know that there is a place on Earth you could call it an invisible wall that no animal, bird, or fish can cross? It sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? But believe me, it is true. Yes. Today, I'm going to take you to a mysterious island. Where 019, this invisible boundary wall exists, what we are calling the invisible line. Nature itself created this enigmatic barrier. This boundary lies between the Indonesian islands of Bali and Lombok. Although the line runs right alongside both islands, for the animals inhabiting these two regions, crossing this boundary is simply impossible. 037 the distance is a mere 35 kilometers, yet. Despite this proximity, the animals of these two regions cannot travel from one side to the other. Yes, there is an invisible force at work here, one that prevents any creature from entering or leaving, in other words. It makes crossing this invisible wall impossible. Let me explain how. Between the islands of Bali and Lombok, 056, on one side, you find a specific set of animals, birds, and fish. On the other side, however, you encounter a completely different array of animals, birds, and fish. As you travel from Bali to Lombok, you will realize that everything you have seen up to that point changes in an instant. Yes, if you make the journey from Bali to Lombok, you will find that the entire 114 environment transforms into something entirely distinct. And the most peculiar aspect of this mysterious boundary is that, with the sole exception of humans, it is impossible for any other animal or fish to cross it. Not even a bird can fly across. You must be wondering, what exactly lies within this 35-kilometer stretch that prevents animals from moving from one side 132 to the other? To be honest, behind this boundary lies an invisible force, one that operates unseen by all keeping. These two distinct environments completely separated from one another. To unravel the mystery of this invisible wall, we must travel 150 years back in time. How and why was it formed? And how is such a phenomenon even possible? Let us take a brief journey into the past, 151 to 150 years ago, when a British researcher named Alfred Russel Wallace discovered this mysterious line. Little did he know that his discovery would one day astonish the entire world. In fact, Wallace's life was itself remarkably dramatic. Born into an ordinary English family, Alfred from his very childhood to 09 was deeply interested in his studies. However, his family's financial hardships compelled him to abandon his education and embark on a journey alongside his father, a cartographer or mapmaker. Yet, this very decision proved to be the most pivotal moment of his life, and, indeed, for our world as well. He began to 26 traveling to various locations where he became intimately acquainted with the natural environment and began collecting a diverse array of plants, animals, and insects. It was in this manner that, one day in 1854, he took a boat and traveled 35 kilometers to the island of Lombok. Upon his arrival there, he realized for the very first time that something to 45 extraordinary was taking place. He encountered animals he had never seen before: Komodo dragons, kangaroos, koalas, such bizarre creatures. Where had these animals come from? Why were they absent from Bali or the other neighboring islands? Wallace and his companions were utterly astonished. 302, a profound question now confronted him. Why did such a diverse array of animals inhabit this particular island? He sensed that some unseen force was at work here. This mysterious situation deeply intrigued him, though it would take some time before the solution finally emerged. 319, during this interim, he fell victim to a peculiar illness that forced him to remain confined to one place for rest. It was during this period of convalescence that an extraordinary concept regarding this mysterious line first took shape in his mind, a realization that marked the first step on the path to becoming a globally renowned and unforgettable figure. 336, as Wallace lay resting, a curious thought crossed his mind. He realized that what was occurring here was no ordinary phenomenon. The distinct biological diversity manifested in the animals, birds, and fish found between Bali and Lombok was not merely a coincidence. 350, for some great invisible force was keeping them apart. But what exactly was that force? A whirlwind of thoughts began to churn within Wallace's mind. 3 specific questions swirled incessantly in his thoughts. First, why do the animals on these 2 islands not intermingle? Second, why are even the birds unable to cross this invisible boundary? And third, why are the fish on either side so distinct? At one point, Wallace sensed that something mysterious was at play. And drawing upon his observations for 11, he formulated a theory. Wallace proposed that the islands of Bali and Lombok were once connected to one another long ago, when the Earth was a very different place. The continents of Asia and Australia were joined together. However, as global temperatures rose and sea levels increased, these 228 continents began to drift apart and eventually separated completely. According to Wallace's theory, the animals inhabiting Bali are primarily Asian species such as elephants, tigers, and numerous other creatures. Conversely, the animals found on Lombok are Australian species including kangaroos, koalas, and Komodo. For 45 dragons, these animals are unable to intermingle because they were separated millions of years ago at a time when a single supercontinent fractured, giving rise to new islands and oceans. At the time, this theory did more than merely explain the diversity of animal life. 5. From a scientific standpoint, it fundamentally transformed our understanding of the Earth itself. Although many years have passed since then, thanks to the advancements of modern science, we now know that our planet has never been static. It is a dynamic world where continents are gradually drifting apart from one another through the process of plate tectonics. 519, and this process continues too. This day, however, Wallace's work went a step further. He provided the proof.